Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I want to share with you guys my opinion on the top 10 very best budget EDC folding knives released in 2024. Don't skip the intro. I want to give you guys some context to this list because it probably seems like I've done this multiple times this year. The lists that I've done this year are the very best knives under $50 and the very best budget EDC folding knives of all time, which was a video that included knives that were released any year, not just 2024. I want to narrow it down to my opinion on the 10 best budget releases of 2024, meaning the knives actually have to have been released in 2024. Budget knives on this channel are knives that are under $75. So in order to meet the criteria for this list, I have to, 1, have actually handled and reviewed them on this channel. 2, they need to be under $75. And 3, they need to have actually released in 2024. Now, to be honest with you, there are probably 20, 30, maybe 40 knives interchangeable with the first part of this list. And that's because budget knives in general are just really great. Like, there are so many amazing budget knives that have released in 2024, and I didn't get to handle them all. There are too many for me to have handled, so these are just the ones that I experienced. If your opinion's not the same as mine, that's perfectly okay. But these are the ones that I think are great. Truly, though, I think the very best of the best are the ones towards the end of the list. I will link everything down in the description so that you guys can pick this stuff up if you want to. It is entirely up to you if you do that, but they'll be down there if you want it. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and start off here with number 10, and that's the Migon Galati or Galati. I'm not really sure. This looks very similar to the Honey Badger, right? I mean, it's not an exact duplication, but it certainly does look familiar. There's almost a situation with double clutch, but not quite. It's just a really straightforward, good EDC knife. You have the contouring on the micarta. You have 14C28N. You've got nice access to the lock bar, nice access to the little opening half moon there. You have a titanium pocket clip, which is something that I consider a great value with Migon knives. Something that bothers me about Migon knives is the fact that they don't always mill out spots for lefties. So while this is a fantastic EDC folding knife for right-handed people, not so much for left-handed people. These come in at $52.96, which is a really excellent value alongside, honestly, countless other Migons, considering we're looking at good quality materials, good quality build, fit and finish, and a titanium pocket clip. Just a really nice pick overall, but definitely interchangeable with a lot of great stuff that came out in 2024. Moving on here to number 9. This one is often overlooked by a lot of people. This is the CJRB Shale, which comes in at about $50. It is really similar to a bunch of other like bug out-esque knives, right? Simple bug out style handle, which truthfully, we shouldn't give credit to bug out. We should give credit to just knife, as in the dictionary term of knife. This is the knifiest knife handle that's ever knifed, right? It's also the knifiest blade that has ever knife bladed because it's just a simple blade. But it does work really well, and I kind of like the slightly taller handle and blade profile. It's nice and thin behind the edges. This is AR RPM 9, which we now know to be a spray form of 440B, I think. Is that what they ended up saying? It's very like normal for this territory of the knife world, and it performs reasonably well when you put it up against the other blade steels that we typically see under $75. But typical CJRB fit and finish, this one is actually ambidextrous and has a nice heavy a nice heavy omega spring tension. So everything works exactly the way that you want. Nice thumb studs. And we also have a pocket clip that can be mounted on the left-hand side. I particularly like this little zone right here that's carved out and is textured. This is actually a little less interesting version of this knife. They have some pretty colorful two-tone G10 versions of this knife that I really, really like. So if you want to pick up something ambidextrous, reliable, good value, and a little bit more colorful, $50 for the CJRB Shale, I think is really, really great. Let's go ahead and move on to number 8, which is the new Civivi Plecoid or Placoid, or I'm not really sure how to pronounce Placoid. $53.98 for a larger budget EDC knife that's got some really cool shredded G10. This is a material that I think only Civivi and maybe a couple other companies are playing around with right now. It just looks like a fancier G10. Honestly, looks kind of like a frosted over window, but a really good look. Something that we don't see enough of these days is a good larger, I'm not talking XL, but a larger sized budget EDC knife. It seems like the budget world, the budget knife world in particular, is more fond of smaller knives, which is great for people who want a smaller knife, but sometimes we just want a bigger one, right? The blade steel on this guy is 14C28N, and I really thought that given that it was Civivi, which tends to truthfully have a little better fit and finish, but they also tend to be a little higher on the price tags, I thought that this would easily clear 60 bucks. So $53.98, honestly, for a larger and more interesting budget Civivi knife in 14C28N, I didn't think was bad at all. The thumb studs are in particular super comfortable with that domed top there. Really nice detent on the flipper tab. A lot of options here for people who kind of, like want a couple of different, means of deployment. Reverse flick, forward flick, flipper. I like that combination there. I also like that they allow for left or right-handed carry with the pocket clip. So yeah, absolutely a wonderful value and well-deserving of a spot on this list. Moving on here, one that we've talked about many times, number 7. This is the CJRB, I'm sorry, not CJRB, it's the Migon Vellona M, the medium-sized one. This just works a lot better than the full-size Vellona. I like the full-size Vellona. It can't make this list because it didn't come out in 2024. To my knowledge, the Vellona M did. I don't love the M390 version of this knife because their heat treat was very soft. Their 14C28N is within like the proper parameters in terms of like what 14C28N should be. This has a gray PVD coating and also a titanium pocket clip, so it's just a little more fancy than what we typically see at this territory. It's also one of the Migons that actually has mounting positions on both sides. This is a $50 knife, which is truly incredible given how nice all of these little elements are. Crown spine, you have the nice fuller, the PVD coating titanium clip. We have the PVD coated liners, nice battleship gray G10 in this case, but you can get these coated, uncoated, whatever you want. It's just a really, really good value. Nice and ergonomics, a good looking knife. Really just a good choice all the way around. The Vellona M is a great knife. I don't know that it's got what it takes to like stay on this list for a really long time. Like I said, a lot of this early stuff is going to be interchangeable with other releases from 2024 that may not be on this list. But in the future, is it good enough to stay? Probably not. I would say that the budget knife world is going to kick a lot of these off here with just in a few months, But anyways, let's move on here to number 6, and that's going to be the slightly more interesting Civivi Incendi, and this is probably the one I use for the thumbnail, which is going to make you guys are going to go clickbait. That's not a budget knife. Yeah, you caught me. This is the more like fancy special version of the Incendi with the really cool Sanmai blade, which is I believe a 9CR 10CR combination here. So plenty fine, but it's going to be more expensive for this version. The base version of this is exactly what you're looking at here, except it's in, I believe, 14C28N for $63. Civivi is one of those companies, a lot of people are really wary about plunge locks. Civivi is one of those companies that tends to get their plunge locks right. So we don't have these, really like super, it's not super prone to disengagement like some other companies have been with their plunge locks. So you can still enjoy the convenience and the fidget factor of the button lock without being so concerned that it's going to disengage. I still wouldn't abuse it, but Civivi, as far as button locks, like actual plunge locks go, Civivi tends to be a little bit better. The reason I like this over the plethora of button lock knives that Civivi has released overall and just this year is because this one's got a little more personality. I, in particular, love that blade shape, little shovel groove like there. We got a nice swedge up top here, almost like a bayonet style blade. Really classic looking profile here with a little bit more zesty sauce going on with the handle. What does that mean? It just means that I think it's a little more flavorful, I guess. Ambidextrous mounting positions for the pocket clip and a pretty good size, honestly. It's just a cooler looking button lock. And, I always feel like what else can they do with a button lock? I mean, they've essentially like done every line on a button lock knife, but the Incendi honestly is pretty cool. It's got a little more character to it. There's countless other options at $63, but hey, $63 for this I think is pretty great. It's a really impressive button lock release from Civivi in 2024 and definitely highly recommendable. Somehow they still managed to make that edge very thin. A lot of times we see stuff like this, fancier blades, and you're like, yeah, well, they sort of reduce the cutting performance by putting that there and making, that the taper down to the edge is not quite as aggressive. Actually, it still ends up being super thin behind the edge, which is great. It's a nice folding knife. And hey, if you want to spring for the San Mai version, it's also extremely cool. Moving on here to, what are we at? Number 5. We have to include, once again, the CJRB Prao, which I can't believe, but according to my content, this did release in 2024. Let me know if I'm wrong. The reason I like the CJRB Prao is, number 1, it's $54. Number 2, it is truly ambidextrous. Number 3, it's a larger budget knife. I don't know why. Just like I said with the Pleco or whatever that was, we just don't see as many larger folding knives. It also has this little thumb oval in a pretty good spot. CJRB has a little bit of trouble figuring out exactly where thumb studs and opening holes should go, but they actually got this right. This is, once again, AR RPM 9, which is not my absolute first choice for a steel in this territory, but it will do just fine, being reasonably tough, stainless, and holding an okay edge, right? Just exactly what you'd want for a budget knife, but really, really nice ergonomics, truly ambidextrous, so lefty friendly, high tension Omega springs. Really, really nice, honestly, for $54. If you have larger hands and you feel super limited, right? Maybe you're left-handed or ambidextrous, I would consider picking this up. The Prao is a really great knife, and I have always considered it to be highly underrated. Moving into probably the more serious part of this list, at least at the beginning, number 4. Yeah, the budget Milita has to go on this list. The only thing that sucks about these knives, the only thing, is that Kizer must have sat down with their team and thought, you know what? Let's do absolutely 0 normal colors. Let's do weird gummy bear confetti and combine things like Ultim and OD green and what on earth? Kizer, this is a great knife. The Milita is awesome. It makes perfect sense to bring this down to the budget territory, and it works great. The only one that you guys sent me that I really enjoy the look of is this one. And this is, it's going to be really subjective as far as whether or not this is a good looking knife. This is the Spider-Man version or the Super Mario version, right? The Milita, the larger one, you can get the smaller one. I didn't like the smaller one as much, but the Milita, the larger Milita comes in at $63. And I think once again, no, these are in Nitro V, but I carried this one a lot and I really, really enjoy it. Needed a mounting position for the pocket clip on the other side. It was a huge miss there, but actuation is really great. It has that inexplicably smooth action that we all came to know and love with the more premium Milita. It's everything that we wanted in a budget Milita except for normal colors. Oh my goodness. Kizer, just give us some normal colors, guys. What was going on with the weird, like, foreign birthday party? I don't know what the heck was going on with that, but okay, you know, if there's a color combination that you like, then go for it. But there's some pretty weird colors, but it is a good value for sure. Moving on here to number 3. I know you guys are like, you cannot shut up about that stupid knife. The Migon Moyarl. Now, I brought up the Moyarl in 2023, and I stand by the fact that this is one of the most ergonomically friendly budget knives in existence. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like a more compact Spyderco Shaman with an incredibly comfortable standard hammer grip and also a beautifully comfortable choke-up grip. This is the crossbar lock version of this knife, and they did a really, really good job of it, about medium strength Omega springs. This version has a PVD coated blade. This is one of the nicest versions that I've seen of this knife, and this nice blue micarta here, and again, of course, a titanium pocket clip. Super confusing. 2 things. Number 1, no jimping up here. If you have a choke up spot on your knife, really would have liked some jimping there. That would have been nice, but it's okay without it, right? The other thing is we have an ambidextrous locking system, and we have no mounting position for lefties on this side. That's silly. The standard version of this knife is a liner lock, which is not an ambidextrous locking system. It can be manipulated with both hands, but the liner lock that they have made available is a right-hand specific liner lock. And guess what? There's mounting positions on both sides for the pocket clip. That doesn't make any sense. Migon, get it together. Outside of that, though, this is a fantastic EDC knife. Oh my goodness, I love it. It's so comfortable. It is so easy to manipulate, so smooth, so friendly. They just got it right. It doesn't look super special versus a lot of the other stuff that's available out there, but I'm telling you, pick this knife up. Whether you're new to knives, you're not new to knives, you only buy expensive knives, buy this up. It is a good, buy this up. Buy this knife. It is a great EDC knife for essentially everybody, especially at $59. Moving on here to the true, I think these are the true kings of 2024. Number 2, the CJRB Pyrite Light. So what? It's a pyrite with plastic scale. They actually made this a little longer. They make the choke up position a little bit more open. They added injection mold plastic scales instead of the G10 or the steel or whatever, which some people would call a downgrade, which is fine because the price went down. These are contoured and they actually feel more comfortable than any other version of the Pyrite. This is the most comfortable version of this knife, absolutely, and it is the least expensive version. You're getting the exact same blade performance for the base versions of this knife, considering the blade is still AR RPM 9. I like the elongation there. Mounting positions for both sides on pocket clip, lots of different colors, right? Or a few. There'll be more in the future. But the main thing here is it's actually a reliable button lock as long as you use it responsibly and don't do anything stupid with it, but it's $30. That is really, really hard to beat. I know that there's some other like crazy value knives this year, like that, like Ozark Trail did like a $10 bug out or something like that, right? I never got to handle that one. And definitely there's a lot of other things. Like a lot of people are going to bring up the fact that you can get a $90 Pyrite right now in S90V. And that's great, but that's not a budget knife. They get that under $75, let me know, because that'll win easily. But they don't have that here right now. As far as, you know, an ultra budget knife goes, this is insane. I mean, this is QSP Penguin territory awesomeness. There's still plenty of reason to pick up the Penguin, for sure. A lot of people would still consider it a better knife, but this is a good contender, honestly. This is absolutely phenomenal. It's amazing that we can get this high of quality on a pocket knife in 2024 for just $30. I think it's absolutely amazing. Moving on to number 1, and let's take a moment here because I need to emphasize this. There is a huge distance between number 2 and number 1. The number 1 pocket knife, it reigns absolute. This is the one punch man of pocket knives under $75. This thing is so stupidly excellent. Nothing comes close to it. Dollar for dollar, nothing in the knife world, even out of all the stuff that I missed. You guys let me know of a ton of budget knives that I didn't get to take a look at this year. Even with doing 2 uploads a day consistently for the entire year, I still couldn't cover everything. Out of all that stuff you guys told me to check out, it's all interesting, it's all really cool. But as far as the number 1 knife spot, it's gotta be the Vosteed Raccoon. And I think, and specifically, it's the top liner lock version. I think you guys knew that this was gonna happen. This is not a button lock. It's not a liner lock. It is quite literally a button-operated compression lock, making the locking system stupidly easy to manipulate and ridiculously strong, considering it is a $65 knife. On top of that, Vosteed is doing a particularly good job with their 14C28N. That's awesome. This pocket knife is essentially all you could ask for. And guess what? Wonderful pocket clip, mounting positions on both sides. I really don't have any issues with this knife at all. I think it's essentially perfectly built. I can't wait for Vosteed to build like an army of top liner lock budget knives because these are so unbelievably strong. I've demonstrated this so many times on camera, really beating on the back of this thing. And the thing just continues to lock up perfectly well. It's super smooth, super easy to manipulate. It's just an incredibly reliable, hyper good value knife. And, you know, I know that it was like the main emphasis of the top 15 greatest of all time budget knives for sure, but it is that and also the best pocket knife that was released in 2024. Some of these have base models that were released in, different years. Like back at the early end of 2023. But I did include variations on this list because there just wasn't that much that was really, really interesting. There was plenty good this year, just not a lot super interesting. And I consider the top liner lock version of the Raccoon something that is very interesting. This is usually, it goes in and out of stock regularly for good reason. People want this, they know it's good, and it definitely, definitely is. That was my list. Let me know what you think I missed, what you think I could have switched out. I'm sure there's lots and lots of stuff. Everything will be linked in the description either way. Thanks so much for watching. Please Make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.